It was 2012, the legendary year where Call of Duty Black Ops 2 came out, Linsanity was tweaking, Chief Keef became a legend, and of course, it was the year that the world was supposed to end. But regardless of all that, regardless of Taylor Swift low-key dropping a classic, the only thing that happened in 2012 that truly matters, that 10 years later is the one thing I remember the most, WrestleMania 28. It is impossible for me to describe to you how hyped WrestleMania 28 truly was. There will never be another WrestleMania ever that, in my opinion, will be as hype as that night. I mean, ladies and gentlemen, don't forget, this was the night we had Flo Rida with his titties out, just singing there with a bootleg Sia they found at Hot Topic. But for real, all the stars were aligned, and this was a WrestleMania that truly captured what WrestleMania is all about. The whole show was amazing from top to bottom, the streak match, Punk versus Jericho, but we needed a separate video for this. WrestleMania 28 was the night that we got a dream match for the ages. Before there was ever a Captain America Civil War, there was the WWE Civil War. The world was watching. People who didn't even care about wrestling anymore were watching. WrestleMania for one night was the only thing that mattered. It was legend versus legend. It was the main event of WrestleMania. After a year of build-up, after years of backstage beef, throwing shots at each other in public, you had The Rock coming back to the WWE, about to have his first WrestleMania match since 2004. The Rock was back home after going to Hollywood, getting jacked, becoming an even bigger star than when he was a wrestler. He was back, and he was up against John Cena, the face of the company, the last true wrestling superstar, the man who carried the company after Austin and Rock were long gone, the face of our generation. It was the biggest possible wrestling match we could have gotten at the time. It was the last true big money dream match, and everyone had an opinion. Were you team Bring It or were you team C Nation? You had to pledge your allegiance, and the whole world was basically split. Finally, everyone who had hated Cena for years, all the older fans, all the smarks, all the people who grew up in the Attitude Era, people who didn't even watch wrestling anymore, were preying on Cena's downfall. They finally had someone from their childhood, someone they loved, to come back, and he was going to be their savior and destroy John Cena. But then you had the little kids, you had the 90s kids and the early 2000s kids all on Team Cena. This was their GOAT, this was their legend, and yeah, they had heard of The Rock, they had seen The Rock, but this was a guy they grew up watching every single week, and for over 1 year, there was this war, this magical war that can never be replicated. This is when social media and Twitter were just trying to pop off. This was when hashtags were a new thing. This was just a special time. It all began in 2011 when Rocky came back to be the host of WrestleMania 27, his first time back in the WWE after 7 long years. He was finally back in a WWE ring, and the only thing on everyone's mind was, yo, we need Cena and we need The Rock in a match at WrestleMania. Yo, literally, like crack fiends, we needed it because it made all the sense in the world. You had these two larger than life icons, multimedia stars, two of the most talented figures in wrestling history, faces of generations, and it was only right. But what made it better than all of that, charisma and everything, what made it even better than all of that? It's what makes every big fight in the UFC special. It's what makes all the major attractions special. They didn't like each other. Yeah, wrestling is fake, but when two people don't legitimately like each other, you bet your ass more people care. Especially when it's two superstars like these two. Before The Rock ever came back, before there was any plans for a WrestleMania main event, these two just never got along. Dating back to 2008, Cena would diss The Rock in interviews, saying how The Rock says he loves the WWE, so why doesn't he come back? He always called them out, and he never shied away from truly saying how he felt about The Rock. And obviously The Rock didn't like that, because no matter what you want to say about him, you know he loves wrestling. He always has, always will. So he took it personally, and he would do the same, throwing shots at him in the Hall of Fame in 2008 while Cena was just staring at him on stage, always minimizing Cena every time he would when an interview question came up about John Cena. It was the perfect storm, a legend returning, a star in his prime, two of the biggest wrestling stars ever, and two guys who just didn't like each other, surrounded by a fan base who chose a side and they stuck with it, and they were rabid, and everyone and their mom was invested. Yo man, kids were pulling up to school in Cena shirts, they were getting bullied and roasted by the Rock fans, and you had Cena fans going back at the Rock fans. Like, it was just everywhere you went. For some reason, it was all about The Rock, it was all about John Cena. Wrestling was cool again. When Rock cost Cena the match at Mania 27 and then challenged him the next night on Raw, 1 year out, getting the confirmation that yes, we're gonna get Cena versus Rock was actually gonna happen was a moment that I'll never forget watching. Even though the match was 363 days out, it didn't matter. For the next year, The Rock did his own thing, he made his movies, and Cena obviously did his own thing, but their paths always crossed. Whether it was tweets or appearances on talk shows, they were kept close enough that everyone knew that eventually shit was going to go down. But as we got closer closer and closer to Mania. Every week things got more heated. It was funny because this was the first feud to really take advantage of social media, so every week when they were tweeting each other, they were saying some wild shit to each other. Stuff that honestly 10 years later, they wouldn't be saying this if this happened again now. The ultimate push for the final stretch of the promotion began at Survivor Series 2011 when they made John Cena and The Rock team up together at Madison Square Garden, and it was fun. Them teaming up made me so much more excited for the WrestleMania match, and I was already just jumping for joy waiting for WrestleMania to happen. Seeing them together, seeing how fast The Rock was, how explosive and how ready he was, it was like confirmation, like holy shit, this is actually going to happen. So after they won their match, they had a little pose down and the crowd went nuts every time The Rock did anything. Cena was breathing, they were booing. It was electric, but The Rock, of course, he hit the rock bottom on Cena, and once that happened, we were officially off to WrestleMania. Yo, from here on out, shots were being fired every single week like it was 1945 Germany. The Rock would do his thing, bring out little John Cena and roast the hell out of him. He would take Cena's merch and throw it into the river, roast Cena for being Mr. Fruity Pebbles, you know, calling him a Teletubby. The Rock was being The Rock and the fans ate it up. But yo, let's be honest, I don't care what you guys say, Cena was right there with them. Cena held his own. Cena proved in the build up to this how elite he truly was and how he is a superstar, how he is on the Mount Rushmore of wrestling. He was up against The Rock and never at any moment he looked lesser than The Rock. Yeah, The Rock had his amazing promos, he did his thing, but Cena had his game face on the entire time. He was there every single week, not via satellite, and he didn't need lines written on his wrist, and obviously he would remind The Rock about that. He was being real. He was saying shit like, yo Dwayne, you only came back to promote Fast 5 and launch your Twitter account. That's why you're talking about trending topics every single week. And at the end of the day, they were both spitting facts. Every week they were going back at each other and it went personal and personal. Eventually they stayed away from the Fruity Pebbles and all of that, and eventually it was just real shit being talked, and that's what everyone wanted. The Rock was saying that Cena never took the company as far as he did, and Cena was saying, well, I never left the company as soon as I got a little taste of Hollywood. When Cena said, I can't wait for Raw on April 9th, the Raw a week after WrestleMania, because I'm still gonna be there, while The Rock is gonna be at a movie set laughing with the stunt double. Cena was out here saying, I was a former Rock fan once upon a time, but there is no more Rock. It's just Dwayne Johnson now, the movie star. But of course, when The Rock got serious, it was just as special. The Rock would get in Cena's face and would say how, Cena, you're always gonna be my little bitch. Every week it was like, yo, I gotta watch Raw to see what these two buffoons are gonna say to each other. But yo, the one night out of all the nights that I adore the most from this feud was the night that they were going to have a musical battle. The Rock was gonna sing and Cena was going to rap. And when Raw started, all you hear is Cena's old music play, the violin kicked in, and when Cena's old music hit and he came dressed out like it was 2003, I jumped out of my seat. And he went in there and he dropped his freestyle. He called The Rock a jack off and everything. He was being explicit. He was saying whatever he wanted to say, talking about how after April 1st, The Rock ain't gonna make no movies. He's gonna need more surgery on his face, just like how he got it on his boobies. In 2012, seeing Thugonomics John Cena standing in the ring being serious is exactly what we needed, and it felt so surreal. But obviously, The Rock did not disappoint, because this man went in there with his guitar, the lights were dimmed, and once again, yo, The Rock was acting like it's 2003. He had the Rock concert, he had the crowd singing along, and The Rock is the only man who can main event a wrestling show with him sitting in the ring and just singing, Cena's got a menstrual clock, but we're dancing cause Cleveland rocks. What a time it was to be alive. But that was it. After a year of knowing the main event in advance, after the disses, the promos, the Teletubbies, the Fruity Pebbles, everything, Cena spitting on a microphone for some reason, it was the Raw before Mania. And there was no gimmicks, there was no BS. Cena simply was in the ring and he said, I have to win. After WrestleMania, life goes on for The Rock. He's gonna go be in G.I. Joe, be a bigger star than ever, but I will still be here. This will still be my life. I can't lose. And The Rock was serious too. He's like, yeah, this is your life. This is your house now. But I helped build this house and I need to beat you to be the greatest of all time. But I need to beat you because I don't like you. And that was it. Wrestling at its best. Two superstars who didn't like each other saying whatever they wanted to say. Two fan bases going absolutely mental who hated each other probably more than the wrestlers did. It doesn't get any bigger than this. Now the question was, well, Pav, who are you going for? Now you guys know me, I am the biggest Cena fanboy you will probably ever meet in your life. I hold it down for that stupid Flintstone like my life depends on it. I've been a fan since I was 5 years old. You guys already know the deal. I made a video just hyping it up for like 10 minutes. I love John Cena. But yo, this was during the time where I thought I was cool. This was during the time I wanted to be edgy, and the internet brainwashed me into thinking that I actually hated John Cena. This was a time where I was on stupid internet wrestling forums and Facebook groups, and I thought I was cool by being like them, and I hated Cena. Even though everyone my age, nobody else hated Cena, I was there just being anti-Cena. So you best believe going into WrestleMania 28, there was nothing I wanted to see more than The Rock beat John Cena. For the entire year, the entire build-up, I was anti-John Cena. Even when he came back as a rapper, I had to fight the urges, fight the spell. I'm like, no, I can't like this man. No, I hate this man. The internet says I have to hate him. I hate him. All because I wanted to be cool on the stupid Facebook wrestling groups. So yeah, going into it, I was team Bring It. And looking back, what the hell was I doing? I wish I was team Cena looking back at it. So in the comments below, like I said, this was a straight up civil war. What side were you on? Were you team Bring It or were you team C Nation? This was the ultimate question going into WrestleMania. It was all that mattered. I'm really curious, and let me know why if you don't mind. But it was set. 363 days later, 7 years since The Rock's last WrestleMania match, 10 years since Cena had made his debut, with 78,000 in attendance. It was the most bought WrestleMania in history. The sun had set in Miami, Florida. It was the main event of WrestleMania. Everyone was watching. The world was watching. It was Team Bring It versus Team Cena. It was legit one of those wrestling moments where you don't forget exactly where you were, exactly how you were feeling. And then MGK and Flo Rida performance where you're like, why do I watch wrestling? But Cena came out. The Rock came out. They were in the ring, finally standing face to face 10 years after Rock versus Hogan. Time was once again standing still, and I get chills just seeing this image right here, them face to face. This was our generation's dream match. This was our big match. Other generations, they had Rock and Austin, they had Hogan and Andre. Yo, we had John Cena and The Rock after a year of builds up. The one night where wrestling was cool again, the one night for some reason you believed wrestling was real again. I wish I could go back. The bell rang, and I love this match. As soon as the bell rings, the crowd's going crazy. They're running around, they're looking at each other. You add the hype, the moment, the people, the environment, and the crowd. This is such a top tier WrestleMania main event. No, it's not a 5-star classic, it's not some masterpiece, but yo, when you get two superstars like this doing their thing, you don't need all of that. This is what makes money. I remember sitting there being so invested, glued to the screen, me and my stupid ass friends just hanging on every single punch. And I remember just hoping, please, can Cena not win this? Can Cena not win this? But my rationale was like, of course Cena's gonna win this. Rock is a part-timer. He came back for one match. He's probably gonna lose this and go away. No way The Rock wins, right? The chants were so loud. Let's go Cena. Cena sucks. They fought in the ring. They fought out of it. They traded punches. The fans cheered and booed, and there was not one wasted move. Every single move they did got a huge reaction from all the fans. I remember Cena doing the 5-knuckle shuffle, and all the fans in the front were all Cena fans. They're jumping for joy, but all you hear is just boos from the entire stadium. Cena smiling, he hits it, and I just have that image ingrained in my brain. Over the match, John Cena obviously hit the AA. Rock kicked out, so Rock hit him with the rock bottom and Cena kicked out. Now we obviously knew that one finisher wasn't going to end it, but everyone's heart just got faster and faster once the first few finishers were out, because we had no clue what was going to end it and when it was gonna come. Was a Rock gonna tap? Was the people's elbow gonna finish it? And yo, fast forward, they battle, they go at it, and Cena puts him in the STF, and for 2 minutes, The Rock is casually dying, just sweating, out of breath, just absolute clappage. And after a minute, I thought it was done. I'm like, he's been in here for a minute, he looks like he's gonna die, The Rock is gonna tap to John Cena. But nah, they kept going. Okay, that's fine. People's elbow, people's elbow. It's an iconic scene. The Rock is standing there, throws his elbow pad. The fans are going mental. This has to be it. He beat Hogan with this move. People's elbow. 1, 2. No, John Cena kicked out of the people's elbow. It was everything we wanted in a match after a year. Two heavyweights just throwing shots, wiling out, crossbody into an AA, no matter, no problem. Cena flying off the top rope. It was 29 minutes of them going all out. And after all the finishers, after all the big moves, after hitting the crazy AA, Cena was standing there, The Rock was dead, and this is where we accepted it. Cena was going to finish him. He was going to put him out of his misery. But wait. We got one of the coolest and one of my personal favorite endings to any wrestling match ever, to be honest. John Cena, the guy who's usually so good about these things, who always smart, always pulls through, always comes clutch, for the first time in his career makes a stupid ass decision. This jabroni wants to do the people's elbow on The Rock. He's going to press L1 and R1 at the same time, and he was going to steal The Rock's finisher. So he's standing there, people's elbow with that goofy ass smile. He waves his hands barely. He goes for the run, and boom, rock bottom. When Cena hit the ropes, everyone was praying, please Rock, get up. And he got him. Bang, rock bottom. And time stood still once again when the referee was counting. 1, 2, 3. The Rock beat John Cena at WrestleMania. When the refs handed 3, it felt surreal. The idea of a 3 count on John Cena in the main event of WrestleMania clean like that, it was so surprising. It was so surreal. Even though this is what I wanted, this is what a lot of people wanted. When it happened, I was like, yo, what? The Rock actually won? Cena lost to The Rock, and every single Cena hater was jumping for joy, including myself, as stupid little kid just getting hyped like, oh my god, Cena lost, yay! Everyone was predicting Cena was gonna win. Most predictions online were like, Cena's gonna win, Cena's gonna win, the torch is being passed, you know, The Rock and Hogan had their thing. Now it's Cena's time, he's the guy, Cena's gonna win. But The Rock won, and what a moment it was. The Rock won and Cena just went out, and you get this iconic image of him just sitting there at the end of the ramp, just totally lost. Like, what happened? Cena got too cocky and he lost the biggest match of his career. The Rock won, and for all the old heads, the Cena haters, it was the greatest day of their life. I was so happy when The Rock won, but I remember when I saw Cena sitting there, I was like, damn, a little bit of me did wish, yo, maybe Cena should have won this one. Now looking back, should have Cena won and ended the feud? Definitely. There was no reason for a rematch, but regardless of the future, at this night when this happened, this was one of the best WrestleMania main events ever, one of the best build-ups ever, and from a spectacle point, hype point, money making point, there are very few matches in wrestling history that can match this. I look back at this time with such fondness. I was 13 years old watching every single week, hooked to wrestling in a way that I never thought was gonna happen again. I kinda still loved wrestling, but by 2010, 2011, I was out of it. But when this happened, I was so hooked to the product. We were blessed by this. It's such a fond night and such a special part of my childhood. If I ever hear Wild Ones by Flo Rida, I instantly flash back to this night. I really wish I could relive this again. I wish I could feel, 13 years old again and watch this live again. It's, yeah, you know me. I'm a huge Cena fan. I'm a huge Rock fan. These two are my 2 favorites of all time. They're my top 3. And I don't know, for me, it doesn't get better than this. I know for a fact that this holds just a special place in a lot of your guys' hearts. So let me know below any feelings, what side were you on, any memories of this show. Ladies and gentlemen, it was Cena versus Rock, WrestleMania 28. You just had to have been there. I'll see you guys later for the next one. Peace.